I'm Dylan Campbell, this is Chasing Cars, and beside me is the Mercedes-AMG GLC 63 SE Performance. Very long name, but very apt for this car. There's so much technology going on. Of course, the big news is it's out with a twin-turbo 4-litre V8 and in with a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. That 4-cylinder engine, shared with the A45 hot hatch, is mated to a rear electric motor for a total combined output of 500 kilowatts and 1,020 newton meters. Serious numbers. There's so much going on with this car. It's a plug-in hybrid with a 6.1 kilowatt-hour battery with up to 14 kilometers of claimed range. 0 to 100 takes just 3.5 seconds, a clear half a second faster than the old V8 model. Fuel economy, as you'd hope, has also improved significantly. Now 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres claimed, down 4.9 litres per 100 kilometres on the old V8. There's also a tricky all-wheel drive system and rear axle steering, which has also meant the weight has gone up. It's now 2,310 kilos, around 200 kilos heavier than the previous model. The price has also gone up, although not quite as significantly, now $191,814 before on-road costs, about $4,000 pricier than before. But the big question, of course, with this car is, can all that technology make up for the loss of 4 cylinders and that V8 engine note? Today, we'll jump in the driver's seat, show you around the interior, have a look in the back and the boot, and of course, take it for the all-important drive. At the end of the video, I'll give you something of a verdict, but until then, make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell.
Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
The first thing you notice jumping into the GLC 63 is it's definitely an AMG. You can feel it in the seats. They're very snug and very firm and very sporting, kind of hinting at what might be to come. It feels very car-like in here, even though it is an SUV. The interior kind of wraps around you and you feel like you're sitting in the car, not on the car. And these screens give the GLC 63 a very high-tech vibe. We've got 11.9 inches here for the infotainment, which is running Mercedes' latest MBUX. We've got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and a wireless phone charger hidden down in here. Our 12.3-inch digital instrument display gives us everything you could ever want, and there's a dizzying amount of menus and screens and graphics and displays, plenty to play with. My two favorite things, however, are these two little knobs here, which lets you control everything from drive mode to suspension to exhaust, and just kind of add that sort of gleeful element that you want from your AMG. Let's have a look in the back. Welcome to the back seat of the GLC 63, and there's plenty of space. For adults, there's lots of foot room, tons of knee room, heaps of headroom. The back seat itself is nice and soft and comfortable. You get a bit of amenity, you get these rear air vents, you get this center armrest, which comes with, curiously, an iPad holder, and if you press it again, you get cup holders. Although, interestingly, there are no USB outlets back here that we can see anyway. But on the whole, plenty of space for 3 adults, especially 2. I'd be more than comfortable sitting back here for a long trip. Let's have a look at the boot now. There's plenty of space, even if you do concede 110 litres because of that rear-mounted electric motor. You can sort of see the boot floor rising up here a little bit. That is because of all those high-performance gubbins. It's pretty good for amenity too. We've got a 40-20-40 split fold and also boot-situated buttons to fold down those rear seats. But enough of the luggage capacity of this car, let's go for a drive. From the driver's seat of the GLC 63, first impressions are very good. There's no getting away from the fact this is a performance car, very focused. You can feel it through the suspension. Quite a lot of vibration and harshness coming through from the tyres. These seats too are very firm and snug, but of course you are in an AMG and it lets you know that. One of the coolest things you can do with the GLC 63 is pop it into electric only mode, provided you have a full battery, of course, and drive around just as though you're in an electric car, silently, smoothly, and with that lovely instant torque that you only get from an electric motor. That's even if the electric only range is closer to 8 kilometers than what Mercedes-AMG claims. But hey, many owners won't mind at all. They'll be using this car more for the performance, and that's what AMG says. The battery and electric motor are there for performance, not necessarily range. And this is an easy car to drive in the urban environment. It does feel quite focused, as I said before, But also in hybrid mode, it is absolutely seamless. The way it switches between internal combustion engine and electric motor, you can't notice it at all. And there is something nice about knowing every time you put your foot on the brake pedal or you go cruising down a hill, you're scavenging energy to be used later on. But certainly by plug-in hybrid standards, the electric-only range is nothing really to write home about. Moving around in traffic, there's plenty of grunt, making for effortless progress, as you would hope for something with 500 kilowatts. But conspicuous in its absence is the lack of a V8 burble. That's something that I loved about the old GLC 63. Instead, you get lovely quiet hybrid motoring from the electric motor and of course that 4-cylinder. But never mind all that urban driving stuff. What is the performance like? Well, let me tell you, it is ridiculously fast. Put your foot down and it feels like it's throwing everything at all 4 tires. It is so fast. And there is a dizzying amount of modes in this car. Certainly would take a long time to get to know the car, and it'd be a lot of fun exploring each and every individual mode. From a performance perspective, this is a seriously potent car. There's tons of power, tons of torque, huge amounts of acceleration, and quite a lot of grip, even if the car does struggle ultimately with its 2.3 tonne curb weight. Even though we've only had a pretty limited drive of this car here in Queensland, get it onto your favourite winding road in the dry, and I would imagine that it would blow your mind. Does the GLC 63 sound good? Yes, it does, in its own way. There's a little bit of turbo hiss under load, which is really fun. There's some sort of high-tech futuristic sounds coming from the electric motor. And in the sportier modes, you get some artificial intake noise coming through the front speakers, which I personally don't love, but it does add something. There's no denying it though, it doesn't sound anywhere near as good as that old 4-litre twin-turbo V8. Driving the GLC 63, there is a sense that there is a lot going on underneath you, a huge amount of software, a huge amount of engineering, and it is absolutely a feat of calibration, this car. Whether or not that appeals to you is an entirely different matter, of course. If I had to level some criticisms at the GLC 63S from a driving perspective, I would say that the ride quality, while it's supple enough, definitely has a hard edge to it. It lets you know at all times that you are driving an AMG. The brake pedal as well can feel a little bit wooden, especially when you're barreling into that hairpin at quite a fast pace. Then there's the issue of weight. 2,310 kilos is a lot, no matter which way you cut it, and it's always there when you're driving the GLC 63 in the back of your mind. It does a good job of hiding that mass, but it does show up at the end of the day, especially as you get closer to the ragged edge. Is this car fun? Well, it's definitely fascinating and intriguing from a technology perspective, and it's ridiculously fast, and yes, it is fun in its own way. But if you're looking for something that's lithe and light on its feet, you might want to look somewhere else, I think. Ultimately, while the GLC 63 is ridiculously fast, the weight does blunt its ultimate handling ability. Ultimately, we'll have to reserve judgment a little bit on the GLC 63. We've only driven it on some wet and cold roads here in Queensland relatively briefly, and there is the sense that this is a vastly complicated car with many layers to unpeel. We can't wait to get it onto a dry, winding road somewhere closer to Chasing Cars HQ. So in the end, how do I feel about the new 4-cylinder AMG GLC 63? Well, I really like it. Epic performance, amazing acceleration, and really impressive technology, even if it doesn't quite tug at the heartstrings in the same way as the old V8 model. There's no denying that. This is a car that requires you to go in very much with an open mind, and if you do, with no preconceived notions of any former models, it's a very impressive thing. And there's so much car here to discover as well. So many modes, so many different variations. You'd be playing around with it all day on countless winding roads around Australia. It'll take you a long time to get bored of this car. And in terms of the powertrain difference to the old V8 car, you just have to think of it like a different flavour. You've gone to an ice cream shop and gotten something entirely different, still good, but undeniably different. So that's my opinion. Let me know yours down in the comments below. While you're there, hit subscribe and that notification bell. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.